Hello and welcome back to Butcher That Model and the first part of our new series on Warhammer stuff. Now let's assume, rightly or wrongly, but let's assume you've never ever done a model kit or a miniature or anything like it. Alright, so we'll start at the very beginning and we'll work our way up. What we're going to need, obviously the first thing you're going to need is something to build. The next thing you're going to need is equipment and glues and paints, water and other luxuries like some way of sanding. Right, so let's talk way through some of the stuff. Let's have a chat about it. This is a pair of nippers. Right, should we compare them to cars? This is a 1980s Austin Allegro. It may eventually get you from A to B, but they ain't very nice. Don't use these, don't buy these. Save your money, save up. Alright, these are awful. This is a pair of Citadel nippers, and these are alright. If we're talking cars, that was the Austin Allegro. This is a brand new Ford Focus. Alright, they're alright, they're great. They'll do the job, they'll last you for years if you look after them. They're quite sharp and they'll take the stuff off the screws. Alright, this is what you want to go for. Unless you are quite lucky and you've got a good friend that buys you a pair for Christmas, or you're extremely well off. These are a pair of God hands. These are made by a company in Japan. These are the Rolls Royce, the Lamborghini Aventador, and every Ferrari that's ever been made combined into one in comparison. These are absolutely amazing. One blade of these is the cutting blade, and one is a slight cutting blade, shall we say. It has got an edge on it. One of these blades is like a razor blade. Alright, these are absolutely incredible precision. Alright, they're not for cutting into big lumps of things though. Alright, they're great if you're building Gundams and things like that. Bandai plastic, fantastic. Some of the Games Workshop things, be careful with God hands because they are quite big and chunky. If you're doing something like the Carnosaur, that is quite a large model, some of the gates are quite big on the sprues. Alright, I love these. These are incredible, God hands. But for all intents and purposes, when I'm doing Warhammer stuff, I will use the Citadel nippers. Right, what else are we going to look at? Sanding sticks. Right, sanding sticks are great. Right, you can use emery boards and nail files and that. Don't bother. Buy yourself some decent sanding sticks. Either some UMP ones or some Flory model ones, or where's you looking at? Albany, I think it isn't it? Yeah, Albion. You know. Save up and buy some of these as well. Have a look online. UMP ones are great. Flory sticks are alright as well. They're brilliant. They do the job really well. Get the thin, skinny ones. Alright. You don't want a dirty, get big chunky thing like this. That's a Flory one. When you're doing miniatures, it's great for model building, model kits, planes, boats, ships, trains, cars. They're great for them. But for this sort of work, you want the little tiny, skinny ones. Alright. Brilliant things. Must have things. What's next? Glues. Glues. Let's take it out the door. Dad's going to shout at me because I've taken it out of the holder. Right, this stuff is the Austin Allegro. This is Umbral polycement, also known as a tube of snot. A tube of Satan's snot. You don't like that. This is Revell contactor. It's alright actually. Does the job. It's good stuff. It's got a needle. That's what it's stuck on. No, it's got a needle for precision application. It's good stuff. It does the job. It works alright. That's your new full focus. Alright. This is your Ferrari, Testarossa, Lamborghini Aventador. To me, extra thin. Good stuff. This is what you want. Alright. What else are we going to need? This. It's a sandwich box. It's actually a takeaway box. It's called a wet pallet. Very, very simple to make. It's very simple to mess up as well. You want a sandwich tub or a takeaway tub. You want kitchen paper or toilet paper, kitchen roll's better, and parchment paper, not greaseproof paper. It has to be parchment paper. It has to be porous. Greaseproof paper isn't porous. It won't let any moisture through. Alright. Now I can put a bit of paint on there, okay, and it will stay wet and usable and workable for days if you remember to put the lid on when you're finished. Alright. Make a wet palette, guys. It's so simple to make, and it will save you a fortune, an absolute fortune in paint, because your paint stays workable. If I was to use, I use a dry palette sometimes, which is an old bathroom towel. It's probably going to whiten out the camera. As you can see, I use it. That's called a dry palette. Alright. The only problem is, once you put paint on it, you've got 15-20 minutes working time if you're lucky, and it dries out. That stays wet for days. So just make a wet palette. It's simple to make. There are loads and loads of instructional videos on the YouTubes. Alright, really simple to make. The only mistake you will make is buying greaseproof paper. Don't buy that. Parchment paper. Okay? We'll use that there. Obviously, water. Clean water. Change your water regularly. Especially if you've used a metallic paint. We're going to be using metallic paint later. We're going to be using lead belcher. Alright. And this is paint and pigment, but the pigment's like flecks. Like little metal flecks. Alright. Once you wash your brush, the flecks will float on the top, and you can, if you don't wash it out, contaminate paint further on down the line with little flecks of silver. You don't want that. Alright. Change your water regular. Now then, here's a tip that a lot of people don't do. What's that? That is brush cleaner. My own brush cleaner. Alright. It's basically Windley car windscreen wash, water and isopropyl alcohol, IPA. Alright. Just mixed together. It's a fantastic brush cleaner. The other thing I recommend buying, and it's around the back of it, the other thing I recommend buying is this stuff. The Masters brush cleaner. This is great and it's gorgeous. It smells like lemon. It's heaven. I need to clean mine out actually. Look after your brushes. If you look after your brushes will look after you. Seriously. I was, the guys in the model making broom and the hangouts that we do will tell you, I was, for years, I was horrible to my brushes. A brush would last me about 3 or 4 days and I'd bin it and buy a new one. Okay. And then my friend Scott up in Orkney bought me a set of Citadel brushes for Christmas. With Scott's in Orkney, he's a Viking, and it's a Merry Christmas, Dave. There's your Christmas present. If you ruin them within the first month, I'm going to come down to Portsmouth and I'm going to give you the Blood Angel. Have a look at what the Blood Angel is, Viking Blood Angel. You don't want it. Seriously, you don't want it. So I discovered Masters brush cleaner and my own painted brush cleaner, and my brushes still, considering it's February, are still perfect. It's good stuff. It will save you a fortune. For about £7. That brush cleaner will last you a good couple of years, and it will save you a fortune in brushes. Honestly, I'm a new man. I'm a reformed character. It's all bloody Scott's fault. Right then, and that's basically the stuff we're going to use. Okay, there are other things we're going to use later on down the line. We're going to be using super glues and things like that, but not today. Today we're chain rasping. Okay. Oh, the other thing, another good tip is, with your brushes, don't lose that bit. Okay, don't lose it. It's probably one of the most important things, believe it or not, because when you clean your brush, the problem is if you stand them that way up, take that off thing, see, If you stand it that way up, okay, the paint, even if you've cleaned your brush, there will still be paint and pigments and moisture. And what happens is, it leaks down into the ferrule and dries it inside the metal bit. And as it dries, it will splay the brush out. And that's what ruins your brushes. Right? Clean them thoroughly, but don't store them that way up. Save this. Yeah, I'm a brush licker. Save this, put it back on and store it that way up. You might have to use a cup or a jug, store it that way up, and then gravity, whatever paint's left in there, gravity will pull it down to the tip anyway, and it's not going to ruin your brush. Good tip. Or make a brush holder. This is Sid. Sid's my brush guardian. He was actually, if you ever get the black coach, you get the choice of 2 drivers. One's got a whip and one hasn't. This is the one without. And I looked at him, I thought, oh, I can use him. And I made myself a brush holder. Just for a bit of fun. I was bored one afternoon. Make yourself a brush holder. Now some bushes you don't actually get a plastic thing because they're shaped. Like, oh, sorry, it's only the remote control for the TV. This is a Citadel dry brush, right? And it's big and flat, and that's a base brush. I love these base brushes, they're great. Obviously you don't get covered with this, so what I do is I've got a shelf above my desk and I've got a couple of little bulldog clips, and all I do, I clip them there and I hang them on the hook, so they hang down that way anyway while they're drying. It's perfect, it's great. It's a cracking system. Right then, I think for equipment that we're going to use, apart from paints, obviously, that's your covers, right? Can we see what's in the box? I don't know, get in the box. I cut my nails the other day. Why did I cut my nails? Can't get into anything. The box, let's see what we get. So, and this one still, with the old system, you can pick these up for about 20 quid on eBay, 25 quid in the shop, but you can pick these up for about 20 quid on eBay. But we're not worrying about that now. The £20 bills. We'll get back to some of them later, but this is Warhammer. You won't get a lot for £20 in Games Workshop. Now, I'll let you into a little secret at Games Workshop. People moan and complain, rightly or wrongly so, about the pricing policy of Games Workshop. People that complain are generally model makers, okay, because they see it in the plastic value, okay. This isn't a model kit. It is, but it isn't. It's a game playing piece, okay. Nothing to do with the kit, it's got nothing to do with the model. It is a playing piece for a board game, a tabletop game. If you're playing, there are some board style games they've got, but it's a playing piece. It's not a model kit. People need to get that out of their heads when they moan about prices at Games Workshop. It's not about the value of the plastic that's in the box. It's the points value of the character in the game. Okay, let me explain. This is a chain rasp. It's worth about 8 points. Okay, so altogether 10 chain rasps, you're looking at about, I think it's 80 points. I think. Somebody will correct me down the bottom. I haven't got my codex with me. Okay, it's downstairs and I can't be bothered to walk downstairs and get it because I've been at work for 9 hours and I want my cup of tea. I've got my slippers on and I've got my feet up. That's essential as well. A cup of tea at the bench. Get yourself comfy. Right, so they're worth about, let's say, 8 points per miniature, per model. Okay. This is on the Vampire Courts. Right. He's worth about 3 times the amount of points. You get 3 of them in a box, basically. Okay, for the same price. So it's not about the amount of plastic you're getting in the kit. Based on these yet. It's not about that. I'll just throw him around. It's not about that, it's about the points value on the table. It's a gaming system, it's not a model kit. You with me? Simple, isn't it? Now, Games Workshop, Warhammer, their pricing policy works on the fact that, let's have a look at Nagash. Let's say Nagash for argument's sake. He costs £65 to buy. Okay? Which you might think, well, that's a lot. It's not actually. It's a beautiful piece. It's beautifully sculpted, and it was a joy to paint. But you're only going to buy one. Alright? Everybody that has an army of Nagash, an army of the dead, alright, will only buy one Nagash. They'll buy 5 or 6 boxes of these, you get 10 in the box. I've seen people playing with 60, a battle line of 60 of these things in big tournament games. Alright? Amazing fun. These are great. So that's how the pricing policy, oh, pardon me, excuse me. That's how Games Workshop pricing works. It's not about the bit of plastic you're getting, it's the points on the table. Alright? It's not a model kit, per se. Right then, so what do we get in the box? We get a standard sprue with 10 chain rasps in 20 halves, basically. Okay, so, and we get the stands, standard Games Workshop's like this, just a standard small one, not one of the larger ones, it's one of the smaller ones. Not a cavalry base. It's not the base for the black coach, which is actually the base you get for a Titan. That's how big the black coach is. Came with a Titan's base, I couldn't believe it. Right then, so what we're going to do, we're going to look at our instructions. First thing you do, no matter what you're building, whether it's Warhammer or model kit, understand the instructions. It's important. Alright. So this is telling us to do the Dread Warden. Alright, first. Now the Dread Warden, let me get him, gives you 2 options for Mr. Dread Warden. There is Mr. Painted Dread Warden, 6 times. Woo, I've already painted him. Okay. The other option you get with him is you don't do him as a Dread Warden, you just do him as a normal horde. You only need one. Just the one. The geezer with the candles. You only need one for your battle line. So the other option is use half of him, which is D20, the back half, and you either use D18 if you're doing the Dread Warden, or you do D19 if you're just doing them as chain rasp. Okay. See what I did? See what I did there? That's what I did there. It's you've got a choice. Right. If you've never done these before, you need your Dread Warden. He's like your sergeant or your corporal in charge of them, of that little 10-man unit, or 20-man or 30-man, or whatever you're going to do. Alright, your Dread Warden is like your sergeant. Now, what I did when I built these, I got these in the big box set. What I did was, I looked at him on the sprue, Mr. D19. Mr. D19, that bit there. I looked at him, he's one of the last things left on the sprue, just sitting there bored all on his own. I build my own scenery as well. We play on the tabletop, we put the big green, I got a bit of baize, like you do on a snooker table, I got a bit of that. You put that down and I put building, I made buildings, I've got MDF buildings and things like that. We go the whole hog, we got scenery, we got buildings, we got trees, we got a lot. If you're going to do it, just do it, innit? I build a lot of scenery. Now I build a lot of scenery on CDs, on DVD basis, great. That's just a couple of lumps of polystyrene. What I did was, I stuck him up there. Right. He doesn't do now. He's not part of the game. He's just a bit of scenery. But it looks like some old ghosty. He's sitting. He's spectating. It's like Saturday afternoon football. You've seen the film Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. Angela Lansbury, I think her name was, wasn't it? Anyway. And she makes everything come alive in the museum, and they're fighting the Germans on the beach and that. A hex race. Games Workshop have got this wonderful system where you'll buy a kit and you'll want, say, the hex race. But they'll do the same as that, the multi-kits. So the hex race, you can also build the Black Knights. So what I did, just for a laugh, just because I was bored one day. You seen Bed Knobs and Brew Sticks? Yeah, that's what I did with the spare bits. It's quite good, isn't it? I should stand it where you won't be able to see it. There you go. Let's get them in there. See? They don't do now. They're not part of the game. They're just bits of scenery in the background. Why waste bits of plastic? If you got them, do something with them. Right then, so let's put Mr. Dreadwarden back with the rest of the boys up on the shelf. So let's do Mr. Chainrasp. Number 2 is a bit of a skinny one. Let's pick a nice one. Oh, Mr. Geezer with an axe. Number 3. We'll do number 3. So I want part D2 and D1. So turn the sprue. That's D, obviously, because it's the only one that's there. It would help. That blinds are bad if I put my glasses on, won't it? So Luke, D1 and D2 are. Anybody spot them? You see them from there? The wonderful thing about Games Workshop as well is the numbers don't make sense. There's number 2. Found D2. Right then. Let's talk about taking things off the sprue. It's not so bad with big chunky things like this. You can get quite close. Don't get too close. Especially when it comes to delicate areas. Leave yourself a bit of plastic left between the frame and the bit you're cutting off. It's called a nub. We've talked about it before in previous videos when we was doing the building for the younger children, younger people. Right, so we'll clip him off. So that was number D3. Oh, D3. We're doing 3 and 4. That was D2. I'm losing the plot now. D2, D1. I'm losing the plot. You can tell I've been at work so long, can't you? D1. Where is D1? You can't see the wood for the trees. Oh, there it is. There. See, one's there, one's all the way over here. So the clippers away, and then when you're cutting for the clippers as well, flat side to the miniature or to the piece. Flat side to the piece. Do the piece. Do the piece. Right then, put that to one side. So we're left with our 2 bits. Now what we want is our sanding stick. And we want to get rid of any plastic that's been left over when we snipped him off. When we snipped his tip. There we go. That's a bit there. Don't press down too hard. Don't get too aggressive, or you'll end up sanding too much. And then making a right pig's ear of it. We don't need to worry about those 2 because they go underneath the stand anyway. Right. Now a lot of people would then dry fit the 2 parts together, okay, and then proceed to glue him down, which normally is fine. These are 9/0, and the big thing about 9/0 and what makes them really nice is the voids. They're very well designed. Were they using space void as, let me find one, let me get one and show you what I mean. Right, let's have a look at this one, the bigger one, the bigger geezer. He's hollow and he's a ghost. They are really, really cleverly designed. The use of voids is incredible. It's the details there, but also the lack of is there, which is what you'd expect. It's a ghost at the end of the day. So the use of voids is incredible. So what I tend to do, I paint the inside first before I stick them together. Nothing fancy. I don't go washing and dry brushing. I just get the base colours down inside there because it's easier to do it now than it will be to do it later. Alright? It's just my way of doing it. Other people don't do it that way. Other people quite happily build it and then fiddle about trying to get paintbrush in there. I don't like that. It doesn't give me the same control that I'm after. Right, so let's get the mouse out of the way. And what we'll do is we're going to start off with Celestial Grey. Right. You could start off with a white, but why would you? If you go to white, you can't get lighter. It's the same if you're using black. Once you've used black, you can't get darker. You can only get lighter. So I always go for a grey with these because that gives me the option of going lighter or darker depending on what I want to do with it. Whereas if I went for a pure white, oh, you hear that? That's these. These are stainless steel stirring balls. Get yourself some of these. I got these from emodels.co.uk and they were like £3.75 I think I paid for a big bag of them. All right. These are great. Stirring balls are fantastic. Put them in your pot. It helps move the pigment about. The pigment will separate. If you don't use your paint for a few days, okay, the pigment will separate from the carrier medium. And you get pigment in the bottom, carrier medium at the top. Right. There'll still be bits of pigment. And you look in the pot, you think, oh, it's grey. It's not as grey as it should be because most of the pigment is stuck to the bottom. Stick a stirring ball in it. Shake the heck out of it. Let's put that to one side. You don't want that now. You get a wet palette. Now, get a scuzzy brush. Right, I always use a scuzzy brush. Right. And all the scuzzy brush is for is from transferring paint from that to that. Okay? And then stick a bit in your wet palette. Right. Clean off your brush, your scuzzy brush, put your paint away. That bit of grey paint there, that's all you need. Right, let's get our... Oh, something fell off. Right, we're not on fire. Right then, and then all we're going to do that much. That's all you need. Alright, and then get it in there. Get it in there. Get it all the way down at the bottom. Okay, and then set it to one side. The second half, get it in there. Squidge him in. Right down. Okay. Because the paint is thin now, because there's water on the thing, alright, it will go on really smooth. And these base brushes are fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Right. Now it literally takes minutes for this to dry because you're putting on a very, very thin coat. Okay, and it's acrylic, it's water paint. It just dries really well. And there are lots and lots of good paint manufacturers on the market. Oop. People like MIG and Vallejo. Even your Tamiya paints are alright. When it comes to miniature painting, you really cannot knock Games Workshop paints. They are absolutely fantastic to work with. Right then, so what we'll do, we'll leave that to dry, we'll give it a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back. I can have a second coat now, that one, same as he did. Right, so we're going to leave that to dry. I'm going to clean my brush. Right. And we'll be back in a minute, in a second. It's a time machine when that's dry. What is it? See, it's a time machine. Right, that's dried. Right, what's next? Right, we've been going for so long already. Blimey. You can tell I'm out of practice, can't you? So, what have I just noticed about this fella? On the inside of him, he's got chains. Now, if we was to paint that later, it would be a real pain to get in there. So, let's get a bit of lead belcher. Get it on our palette. I need some more of this. I'm nearly out. Get it on the palette. Water. Change over to a small layer brush. Right, and when you're putting paint in your brush, right, you want it on the end of your brush. When you put your paint through, twist your brush, twist your bristles. Your bristles. Is that going to focus? Okay. That's about the amount of paint you want on there, and you want it to point. And all you're going to do is just paint the chain. It's so much easier doing it now than when it's put together. That's just the way I like to do it. You know, other people will argue, well, you don't see it. I'm one of these fussy people. I will quite happily buy an aircraft model kit and spend £20 or £30 quite happily on a big head, set an Edward photo etch set, and make the cockpit look absolutely amazing and fantastic, and then you build a plane and put the canopy on and you never see it. But I know it's there. I know, it's fussy. But I'm not the only one. Most of us do it. There's lots of us that do it like that. So at the end of the day, it's what you like to do. Whatever you want to do, you do it. There's no right or wrong in model making. There's no right or wrong in painting these however you want. You could paint them purple with yellow spots at the end of the day. It's your army, you paid for them, you bought them, you do whatever you like with it. I don't do rivet counters, I don't do anoraks. It's you paid for it. Do whatever you want with it. It's your right to do whatever you like to it. Don't ever listen to rivet counters and anoraks and muppets. They're just trolling. The internet's full of trolls. Me and a few others like to eat them for breakfast. I'll quite happily eat a troll. Right then. That's the silver bits pretty much done. So the beauty of this stuff as well is it takes about 5 minutes to dry. So that's the chain done on both sides. No, I missed that bit. I missed the inside bit of that bit. What a fool. The man's an idiot. And as you've got the silver out, as you've got the lead belcher out, you may as well paint the business end of his axe with this. We'll do the business end, a bit of water on that, so that's flowing a bit better. Right. Remember, put your brush in the paint at the tip and then pull back and twist. Make sure your bristles are to a point, and that way you'll have so much more control over what you're doing. Right, so let's put that on one side, leave that to dry for a minute or two. Now then, same brush. It's rusty. It's not at the moment, but it will be rusty. He's been in his grey for years. What happens to metal when it's left around for years and years? It goes rusty, doesn't it? Now there's lots and lots of different ways of doing it. Okay. I like to do simple things, and one of the things I'll quite happily use is either Agrax Earthshade or Wycliffe Fleshshade. Right, a tiny bit of that, put it on there, wash and brush off. Right, and all we're going to do is we're going to give it a wash. Now what a wash is paint pigment that's very, very thin, right, and it's designed to flow into all the creases and all the crevices. Right, it's like liquid talent is what it's called, basically. People at Warhammer, the old Games Workshop, they call it liquid talent. Any wash, Norn Oil, Agrax Earthshade, Wycliffe Fleshshade, Drinky Violet, all that lot, all the washes, it's liquid talent. It really is. It's brilliant stuff. Cracking invention. Right, so we'll whack a bit of that on there. And straight away that has transformed that shiny metal into very dull, very rusty. So we'll leave it on there. A bit on that side of the axe. Oh, noisy neighbours are coming home drunk. It's Saturday afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. Oh, you can't have left the football already. Alright then. Leave that to dry on that side. Need a bit more actually. Didn't quite get enough on my wet palette. There we go. Same on this side. Slap it on, as Ted would say. Right. Now then, let's have a look, see how that's performed. Now that's gone from being really nice shiny silver to very old, tarnished and musty. What we can do later on, when that's had time to dry, is we can use our first of our technical paints, which is called Nylock Oxide. And Nylock Oxide is really clever stuff. Give it a shake. And that'll take about 10 or 15 minutes to dry. So what I'll do is I'll give it a quick pause again and we'll wait for that wash to dry, otherwise you're just going to sit here like that watching me doing this. So I'll see you in a minute, because time. So what it is, right then, that's the time to dry. What I've done also is I've undercoated the other side. Right then, so what we're going to do now, we're going to get a tiny bit of our silver. We're going to very lightly run it over the chain, only on the tips. So we've got the nice rusty colour on the inside. You don't want to do all of it, just bits of it on the raised bit, and that'll like, well, it's scratched, isn't it? Well, it's gone a bit rusty, but it's been out of the grey for a few days and it's changed, got a bit scratched. Some of the rust is starting to wear off, some of the metal's starting to show through again. Making things look believable. It's alright. It's not a believable figure. It's a ghost with an axe. A load of chains and a big weight around his neck. But try and make it look. And that's the difference between a nicely painted figure and something you just slap together and get it on the tabletop as quick as you can. Attention to detail. If you do attention to detail and your local shop sees your work, you may also get some of your pieces in the display case in the shop, and believe me, it's a very proud moment. It's a bit of an animatic moment, it's a bit of a proud moment when you're invited to put some of your miniatures on display for other people to look at. Honestly, it's like, wow, seriously, you want my stuff? It's a nice moment. Right, we'll do his weight as well. Put a bit of silver highlights here and there, especially on the edge of it. There you go. I'm happy with that now. Right, the next thing we're going to do I'm going to give it a bit of stuff called nylon oxide. Now we'll use a bit of lamy medium. Now I was talking about this in our earlier video. You see that? It's liquid, it's like a milky colour. It's paint without pigment, and it's the greatest way to thin down acrylic paint is with an acrylic medium. I'll put a tiny bit on there. Now I love watching a thing called Warhammer TV, Duncan and Peachy. They are incredible painters. They're brilliant. If I painted half as good as Duncan and Peachy, I'd be chuffed to bits. Right? But one thing Duncan does that makes my eye twitch is he'll use lamy medium and a colour. He'll put the brush in the colour first. Yeah, he rinses his brush off, and then he puts it in the lamy medium, and for some reason that makes my eye twitch. Sorry Duncan, if you ever get to watch this, mate, sorry, but you make my eye twitch when you do that. Look at me having a go at one of the masters. I don't mean it in a nasty way, it just it sets my OCD off. Right, so a bit of, we'll put it by the lamy medium, thin it down a little bit. We only want a tiny bit of this. Twist and pull back on your brush, and then basically wherever you painted metal, just pick bits on. Not all of it, just tiny bits here and there. And when it dries, it'll look like the metal sort of oxidized and corroded. And it's just another rusting effect really, but it's very, very good stuff. I love it. Nylon oxide for this. Now you could use this to actually paint some of the robes. In fact, if you watch Warhammer TV, they do 3 of these, one with nylon oxide, one with Hexrake's Flame, and one with, hang on, and my brain's gone, where's it gone? Here it is, Nine Hunt Glue, the blue one. I had a bit of a brain dysfunction then, I can't remember the name of it. Right, so we'll leave that to dry for a minute, and then what we'll do we'll get a brush for getting paint out of a pot. Hexrake Flame. This is what I like to use for my night hunts. Give it a shake. It's got a stirring ball in it. Give it a shake. Get the pigment moving about. Tiny bit of lamy medium. Stick that there. Rinse that off. Make sure it's shut. You don't want to spill it. And we want to throw a whack at this. There we go. Alright. Now then, what we're going to do, we're going to do the inside. All of the inside with this, basically. And literally whack it in there. Whack it on. Get it in there. Get it covered. Alright. Now this is a wash, so it'll run into all the recesses and run off the high points, which is basically what we want. Like that, make sure it's not clogging up holes. Do the entire thing. Not so much, don't worry too much about the top. Get it down the bottom. Now you'll notice when you're painting these, they've got the actual body like a flowing robe, and then on top of that we've got a cowl. Alright, basically we want this where the join is, especially where the cowl meets the robe, and down the bottom. Alright, you don't want it to pull too much, you don't want heaps of amounts on there, but you do want to get it on, especially where the join is, where the two cloths meet, the two materials meet, and down the bottom. His arm, ooh, I'll just throw him away. On his arm, on his hand, and on the inside. And then what we'll do is we'll leave that to dry, and then we'll join him together once he's dried. Right. Now the reason we can do this like this is because this is an easy to build. It's a clip. It pushes together. It's a push fit. Okay. I do like to use glue and glue them together. But primarily is a push fit. You don't really need glue. You don't need to if you don't want to. I just prefer to do it that way. I prefer to glue mine. Right, so we'll leave that to dry, and then I'll be back when it's dry. There's no point in you sitting there watching it when we've got a time machine of sorts. It's a machine, time machine. Right, I've stuck him together. I've also stuck him on his base. The reason I've stuck him on his base is one of these. This is a Citadel holder. And what you do is, once my girls have stopped making a noise outside the door, it's a paint holder. It's great. These are brilliant. Worth investing in. You can happily paint for hours with that now. Right then, so what we're going to do to him next? Let's paint his cowl. Right. Now, there's lots and lots of different colours you can use for that. It's entirely up to you. You can use Dawnstone, you can use Stegadon Steel Green. I like to use a colour called Inky by Darkness, which is a really, really dark blue colour. So, give him a shake. The blue on the wet palette. And then get our brush. Remember what I said? End of your brush in it, and then pull back and twist. So you're getting a point. Now, nobody says you have to paint it that way up. Paint it that way up. Work away from where you don't want paint to be. This is the way I do it. So I'll paint his cowl bit, it goes down to there, and then around there. Like that. I don't need to thin this down because I've only put a tiny bit on my wet palette, and my wet palette is still very moist. I don't need to thin this much, might do a tiny bit water on the side just in case. Right, this has already taken us nearly an hour, but it's not a race. Why does everybody want to finish a kit within? Well, I want to do it within, you know. I have done that. I proved it the other night on a boom hut live. Well, the guy that runs it, a guy called Foxworth, absolute character, brilliant guy. Love him a bit. He's fantastic and a good friend. We did a build where you bought a starter kit and you weren't allowed to use anything that, well, you were allowed to use 3 non-model making items, a pair of scissors and a bowl of water, and you got to choose the 3 things you wanted, as if you were like 10 years old and you just got a model kit that came with a brush and some paints and the horrible tube of snot glue. That's all we're allowed to use. I actually built a Spitfire, which is, where is he? Here he is. Right, 3 hours 38 minutes, start to finish. You can build things very fast if you want to. When it comes to miniature painting, I'm totally the opposite. I'd quite happily spend all day working on this one figure, getting it to how I think it's perfect. It's entirely up to you. Like I said about colours and that and rivet counters, it's your bit of plastic, you paid for it, you do whatever you want to it. Spend as long doing it as you want. Spend as little time doing it as you want. At the end of the day, if you're happy with the end result, that's all that matters. It doesn't give a monkey's bum what anybody else thinks. It's yours. If you want to paint it pink with yellow spots, call him Mr. Blobby, that's entirely up to you. Right, now I'm happy with that, with the way that's come out colour wise, the base colours. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave that all to dry for about 20 minutes, and then we'll get onto a technique called dry brushing. So I'll pause this, we'll time machine it, come back, we'll do some dry brushing, we'll paint his weapon, we'll use a bit of ink on the base bit and the frondy things, and then we'll call him done. So I'll see you in a minute. It's a time machine. Time machine and we're back. Alright, he's dry now. Okay, he's looking rather swanky. Now you could quite happily put that on the tabletop and just paint the brown on the handle. He's actually done if you want it that way. Now let's take it a stage further. Let's do a technique called dry brushing. Right. Remember right at the start of the video we undercoated him with Ulthuan Grey. No we didn't, we used Celestial Grey. I put a little drop of Ulthuan Grey at the side as well. And believe it or not, an hour later the paint's still wet, still usable. So what we do is we load up our brush and then we get a towel, a kitchen roll, a toilet roll, we work it into the bristles and then we rub most of it off. You might think, what the heck is he doing? Right. There is still going to be paint pigment trapped inside the bristles, and that's what we want. We want all the liquid out, a lot of the carrier medium, we want all that out. Now there might not be anything there on that brush, you might think, well, there's nothing left on that. There's still pigment trapped in the bristles. Right. Now this takes time, okay? You have to be patient to do dry brushing well. Right. You could leave more paint on than that and then just give it a rush of brushing, and it will catch on the raised areas, but it'll be quite thick and it'll be quite blotchy, and you'll think, take your time with dry brushing and build it up slowly. Alright, all we're going to do is we're going to very gently start to run the bristles over all the raised areas. Now these 9/0 are a bit fragile. The only point that's holding him up is 2 little bits of plastic. Alright, so put your finger on him, keep him steady. Alright, and then literally start flicking the brush, the bristles, across where you want it. Alright, and already you'll start to see that it's starting to leave the grey on all the raised areas, and that's exactly what we want. Now this takes time, alright, so what I'll do is I'll once again pause this, because sitting here watching me spend 20 minutes dry brushing will bore you to tears, but that's the technique, guys. Right, load your brush with the paint, work it into the bristles, and then get most of it off. Okay, so you're left with next to nothing. You'll think, well, you're taking all the paint off. It's still, the pigment is still trapped in the bristles, and it's the pigment that we're trying to put down on the high points, not liquid paint, virtually dry pigment. And that's the secret to dry brushing. That's why it's called dry brushing. Alright, take your time. You can't, one thing I can't teach you is patience. Okay, once you've done it a few times, try it with a bit more paint on the brush. Alright, and then try it where you take as much paint as you possibly can off, and take your time and build it up. You will notice a huge difference between the two techniques. Alright, so I'll crack on with this dry brushing, and I'll see you in a second. To you, be about 20 to 30 minutes to me, but I don't care, I'm not in a rush. Alright, it's cost me 25 quid for these. Why would I want to finish them in 30 seconds? Enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the hobby, enjoy the techniques, and you'll get better at the techniques. Patience is the only thing I can't teach you, but patience is one of the biggest tools that you need. So I'll see you in about half a second. To you, it's time machine. Time machine. Right, that's been about 20 minutes of dry brushing. Okay, and I'm happy with that, the way that's coming out so far. There's only a couple more things we've got to do on him, and that's to paint the haft of his axe, and then we'll do some inking on the bottom where he's coming out of the ground. We'll make that a bit more prominent by adding some yellow ink or yellow wash. Alright, and you'll see the difference it makes. So, tiny bit of Mournframe brown, which is what I like to use for dark wood. And if you're painting right near his hand, paint away from it. Don't paint towards the thing, paint away from a colour if you can. Right. That way you're not going to catch it. Same where it gets to the end. A little bit there, a bit more colour. Brushing the paint, pull back, twist your bristles. And then, I knew I should have put my visor on really. I've got old man eyes. I'm in my late, well, mid-50s. If you're a lot younger than me, your eyesight's going to be a lot better than mine. There we go. Right. So let's get some yellow wash. Where's that? So many paints. It's unreal. You will, after a few months of painting Warhammers, you will amass so many paints. It's unreal. Now, you won't have a paint like this. You won't have a bottle like this. This is a very old bottle of yellow glaze. That's a very old. So that's from the 90s. I can go even older than that. Where's it gone? There's one. There's a bottle of a colour called Hawk Turquoise, and that's a bottle from when Games Workshop first started. I have inks and all sorts of washes and inks and that. I actually decanted it out of the bottles, and in my local store in Portsmouth they've got a display case that they have a lot of old stuff in, lots and lots. It's like a museum cupboard. It's great, and I donated some of my bottles that are now in the case. They're antiques. It's a Games Workshop antique. Right, give that a bit of a shake. Tiny bit off the lid there. You can use the lid is a bit of palette. With washes and inks and that, you don't have to worry about that palette. You're only using a tiny bit. And what we're going to do is, where the flames are coming out of the ground, we use the hexaway flame. We're just going to put bits and pieces, and when it dries, it'll really make it look like green on flame. I know you can't really have a green flame, but it's science fantasy. At the end of the day, it's fantasy, and it just really makes it stand out. You could even do some towards the end of his robes, just at the very points, just to give it a bit more oomph and zing, a bit of zing. That's it. Put some round some of the rips and tears, not too far up, just to accentuate some of the details. There we go. I'm very happy with that. Right, the only thing that's left to do now is to base it however you want to base it, whatever the rest of your army is, whether you're using a sandy and then painting it, or you're using flock, or using one of these marvellous, wonderful Citadel texture paints. Grell and Earth, I love this stuff. It's like you put it on, and when it dries it cracks, so it looks like cracked earth. I love this stuff, it's great. Especially when you paint first. I'll show you that later on. We'll do a lava base, and we'll do a spooky ghosty base later on. Right, so that's him finished basically, apart from doing his base. So what I'll do now is I'll get the light box out, because it's obviously it's not brilliant at this view. I'll get the light box out, we'll take some stills, and you can get a real impression of what he actually looks like in the flesh. So I know it's been long-winded, it's been an hour-ish video, okay, but what I'd like you to do is paint along. If you're going to do these, buy the same set, buy the chainrasp board. You need them anyway. You need about 20. If you buy the box sets, you get 10. And the actual, you get lots of them, and you get lots of Stormcast Eternals. You want to get the 10. You need about 20 if you're going to play. Right, it's your main battle line. They're like your main infantry troops. Alright. So if you do, use this video, pause it, press play, and paint along with it. Alright? And hopefully it'll inspire you to do a good job of your stuff. So thank you for watching. I'll put the stills up at the end of this, and I'll see you in the next Warhammer paintings. We don't even know what it's going to be yet. We may even do a Space Marine. Thanks for watching. See you later, guys.